Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I achieved this image. So this video will mostly be to do with the way it was lit. So to capture that image, what I'd previously done is set up this rose. I've got it in a lab stand here because I find this an easier way to manipulate the rose or the flower or whatever it is that you're going to be taking a picture of to get it to just the right angle. It's a lot easier to do it in a stand like this than it is to do with a vase or something similar. So having set up the rose, what I have on the camera is a 24 to 70 2.8 zoom lens and the flash trigger on the top of the camera here. I also have the camera tethered as usual into CaptureOne Software. That way it's easy to show the results as I take them. As for lighting this, this is going to be lit relatively close in. The advantage of that is that one, you don't need a great deal of space. This is typical tabletop photography. And two, you also don't need a lot of power. You can do this with a standard speed light if you want to. Right, so to start then I will just take a test image just to see what sort of contamination I'm getting from the studio lights in here. So let me just have a look at these. This is the criteria. So I have the shutter speed set to the sync speed for that camera, 250th of a second. I will take the aperture to its widest, which would be worst case for contamination. So we'll see what happens at 2.8. So without any flashes set, we'll just take a picture. And there we go. So you can see that we have a fairly dim image of a rose, but you do have quite a lot of contamination here. So if I increase the aperture from 2.8 to f8, which is 3 stops, that should more or less get rid of most of that. And there you go. There is still a little bit of residue there, but nothing too much to speak about. We know that using f8 or above will be relatively safe with this amount of ambient light. So time to set up a flash. Now I'm going to be using this Profoto B2 pack, which is a pack and head system. So you have a separate head and you have the pack. So if I just turn this on, there we go. You can see all the various bits on here that I can control. This is all remotely controlled from the top of the camera, from the flash trigger. So this can also be done with a normal speed light. The main difference here is that this is a bit more powerful. This is about 4 times the energy of a speed light. This is 250 joules. But we're not going to be using it anything like its full power anyway. So it's quite easy to replicate this with normal speed lights. So to get started then, I'm just going to place this behind the rose, pointing straight at the camera. Like so. Put this on the floor. I'll roughly line this up. There we go. The idea being that the actual rose itself will appear quite large and be big enough to cover the whole of the flash. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Okay, so with that roughly set, what I'll do is just turn the trigger on and we'll give that a test. Yeah, that seems to fire. And we'll take a test image. Okay. So we can see in this image, if I just zoom in a little, that's looking quite good. I can't actually see any of the flash itself. Okay, but obviously from that, the front of this rose isn't really very well illuminated at all. So what I'm going to do is put another head around here somewhere, and if you were using speed lights, you could just put another speed light in here somewhere, and I will then use that to illuminate the front of the rose. So I'll just get another head. There. Now the front element of this flash is the same size as the one that I used at the back here. So from this distance, from the point of view of the rose, this is actually quite a soft light where it is. And you can actually adjust the softness of this light by moving it backwards and forwards. The closer it becomes to the rose, the softer it will be. So you don't need anything else on it, you just need to place it in something like the correct position. If I just adjust that, there we go. Just check that's all sort of lined up. That's probably good enough for a test. So what I will do now is turn that one off and turn this one on so that we can set up the lights one at a time. There we go. So now I'll just take an image. There we go. So we can see straight away that's a little bit overcooked. So probably a couple of stops needs to come off that. So I'll just turn the energy down. You don't need a lot of energy to do this at all because of the distances that you've got here. So take 2 stops off and we'll capture another image. There we go. We'll just zoom in and have a little look. Check the focus. The focus looks good. Okay. Now, just to show you what I meant about making it softer by going closer in, the other thing that will happen as you move closer in is, again, because of the inverse square law, you will actually need less energy coming out of here. Therefore, the fall off will be faster, and therefore everything else will get darker. I'll show you what I mean. If I just swing this in slightly, and we'll take it down, like that. I'll then take that down in energy, probably another stop off, and we'll take another test. So even with a stop down, that's still brighter than it was. But you should be able to see that it's actually softer. If you look at the shadows, that's softer than that one is. So if I just take another stop off that, now that's telling me that I've reached the limit, so I can't actually take any more off. This is now running at its lowest energy level. So instead of doing that, I will just adjust the aperture from f8 to f11. We'll capture that again. There we go. So that's what we had previously with the flash further away, and that's what we've got now. The actual rose head itself is virtually the same amount of illumination, but the fall off is much, much faster. Okay, with that set, what I can do next is just turn the backlight back on and turn this one off. Because we adjusted the aperture, we will need to readjust the energy level on the backlight. So I'll just do another test. Yeah, so feasibly that could come up a little. I'll bring it up by half a stop, like that. There we are. It's a bit better. So with that in place, what I can do now is just turn the other head back on. We'll go for a full test. Yes, so that's quite nice. I'm not too sure I like this highlight here, so we'll do something about that in a moment. And the other thing is that I probably want to just get a bit closer, all told, which I can do by just zooming the lens in ever so slightly. So we'll just set that up. I go into about there somewhere. Grab one of those, have a look. Yeah, that's looking good. Just check the focus point. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so to just turn down this bit down here, I'll just have a little look and see where that's coming from. Yes, I think what we just need to do is maybe just manipulate some of the leaves just to cover the stem a bit. Like that. Let's just see what that looks like. Yes, that's turned it down a bit. So that's what we had before. That's what we've got now. Still not quite right, but it's getting there. Let's just see if I can get this to stay in the position I want. Let's try that. Okay. That's better. That's much better. Okay, so we've got rid of the highlight from down here, and I think that's generally improved. That's pretty good. The only other thing that's a little distracting is this. This could be taken out in Photoshop later, but it's probably just as easy to do a small amount of surgery on the plant just to get rid of that. So, just give that another test. There we go. Yeah, so I think that's looking quite good. We'll just have a good look around the image. See what we can see. There is another bit just here, but I think I might do that in Photoshop. Okay, so just to show you what the difference the backlight is making, if I just turn that off for a shot. So we just got the front light on. There we go. So that's just with the front illumination, and that's with the backlight as well. So I think that's a pretty nice improvement. A little bit more of the plant is being shown as the final picture. Okay, so as far as capturing the image is concerned, that is really about it. So the thing to remember about this is the distance that I have here is really quite small. And if you take that distance as a fraction of the diameter, this is about 2 diameters away. So it's appearing to the rose as a pretty big softbox, even though there is nothing attached to it. And the same would apply to a normal flash gun. speed light or something similar. If it is of this sort of size, you're going to get this sort of effect. Just to drum that point home, before I go into Photoshop and just finalize the image, I'll just show you what happens if we move this quite a long way away. I'll put it up here somewhere, and I'll show you what the difference is. There we go. So with that set like that, this is way over 5 diameters away, which is the guide, if you like, for when a light source becomes a point light source. So this should give us a much harder rendition. So let's just do a test. Obviously, being a bit further away, I'm going to need quite a lot more energy in that light. So if I just increase the energy by 2 stops to start with, yeah, we're going to need a bit more than that. So it's now gone up to 4 stops higher than it was. There we are. And now if I compare that to that, you should be able to see that this one, if you look at the shadows here, they're quite considerably softer than this one. And also we're picking up more of the leaves now as well, because the fall off isn't as fast. So with that captured, it just remains to go into Photoshop and finalize the image. So here we are in Photoshop. So we'll just have a look around the image. I think most of it is pretty good. There is just this small distraction just on the edge here, so it might be an idea just to take that out. So the first thing to do here, I think, would be just to make a duplicate, like so. And then we can work on the duplicate, and if you make any big mistakes, you can always go back to the original. So an easy way to get rid of this, I think, might be just to paint it out. So with black set, pick a paintbrush, make it quite hard, I think. There we go, and we'll just paint that out quite carefully. There. Just make that a bit smaller. There we go. I'll just zoom back out again. See if there's anything else. I quite like this highlighting down here. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to leave all the various bits in the rose itself because I quite like the detail. Yeah, that's quite nice. I don't think it needs a great deal else. So we'll just zoom out a bit. Apply the sort of standard crop. Like so. And once again, there we have it. So that is how I came about with this image. Now I hope you like these sort of things, and if you want to see some more, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.